Okay, so what are you? Where are you from? What is your background? What do you believe?
Yes, I am an atheist, more or less,
Uh-huh.
agnostic, I think.
Okay.
I've never really believed in my whole life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't raised as with any particular religion,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always had interest in the matter. I've studied more or less religion independently.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Islam seems really interesting, so I thought I was gonna ask some stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's
Raise
okay.
your
Okay,
questions. Go ahead.
that's good.
Welcome to ask.
Okay, so first of all, I think
Mm-hmm.
more of a general question. I think if you were to recommend me some sources to study Islam
The Quran.
independently, yeah, okay. So just plain reading, translation. I don't
Yeah,
speak Arabic.
read Sahih International Translation of the Quran.
Okay,
It's a best starting point if you want a starting point. Yeah, start with that. Then you can read a biography of the Prophet as well. You can read his life. You can read something like the Sealed Nectar, or there's other books as well that are available for the biography, the life of the Prophet. ﷺ. I think that should be more than enough for someone who is like wants to get an understanding of what Islam's about, etc. Because it will give you the historical background of the life of the Prophet, what he did, etc. And then reading the verses of the Quran will give you the main message of Islam, what's it's about, the rules, and all of these things.
okay. Thank you so much. I have now a few more maybe provocative questions. I don't know how you can take them.
Okay.
Um, One is about morality. Okay,
Okay.
if you can. Okay, because I've heard you say that that atheists don't have an objective morality, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is I don't think that you have an objective morality either.
Okay.
Okay, so if you can tell me where do you get your morality from and why do you think that's objective?
Because it doesn't come from me, it comes from a source which is all knowing, all powerful, etc. Which means
Okay.
if it has maximally perfect attributes of knowledge, wisdom, etc., then it is not a subjective morality because it's not based on one person's experience. That means you don't experience something and then you base a judgment based on your own personal limited experience. So our
Mhm.
experiences are limited. That's the problem with the conclusion that we come up with. We come up with conclusions based on limited experience because we have limited attributes. Like I don't have ultimate knowledge, I do not have ultimate wisdom, I don't have ultimate anything. Or our attributes are limited, and therefore our experiences end up with limited conclusions, and they end up with subjective conclusions. But if there is an entity that is literally the creator of everything, so it
Mhm.
created the universe, it created human beings, it created reality. So whatever it says is absolute objective truth by definition. So if it determines that X is right or X is wrong, that also becomes objectively right or objectively wrong based on that fact that this entity is the maker of reality,
Mm.
and it has maximally perfect attributes.
Okay, and of course I know that like, this is your standard answer, I think. But my point was more like you still you still interpret in some way or the other, whether you think you do or not, what this entity says. Okay, so assuming this entity is true and says all those things, you still
Okay.
need to process those things in your mind, and you interpret them based on your own limited view. Okay, is that something that you
No, I
agree with?
disagree.
Okay, why?
Because we believe language is coming from God as well. So we believe
Hmm.
the source of language is the creator. We believe, like if you read the Quran, for example, chapter 2 of the Quran, you read verse 30 onwards, etc. It talks about Allah teaching Adam the names. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. And he taught Adam all the names of all things. And that is from our belief, the language, all the languages, knowledge of
Hmm.
language. So that is something that you do not you adopt or you take from other entities. It's not something that you come up with yourself. That's why as a baby you pick up language from your mother, your father, pick up words, and then you start formulating these words, and then you start speaking language because you pick it up from external sources. So we believe as Muslims that language comes from God, and Allah uses that language in which we understand the meaning of these words. We take the words as that they're given. Well, not only that Allah sends a prophet and a messenger to show us how do we understand these words. So when
Hmm.
he sends a prophet and a messenger, and that prophet and a messenger is acting based on divine revelation. So the creator is the one who is directing that prophet or messenger on how to behave. So when he says do this or don't do that, this is how you understand the Quran, this is how you understand these verses. That's our application of the understanding of the Quran. It's based on the prophetic life. And the Quran itself tells you that. That the Prophet is the example for you to understand these words in Revelation. Not your own personal view, like what some Christians or most Christians would do. Everyone reading the Bible in his own understanding, coming up with his own conclusions. There is a difference there. And the Quran says the criteria is this. If you disagree with any Muslim over anything, then you return it to Allah and the Messenger. So you return it to the Quran, the text, and then the understanding of the text through the Messenger. Anything that you disagree on. So you cannot be your own subjective, today I think, you know what, I'm going to pray 3 prayers instead of 5. Or you know what, I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to fast Ramadan this year, because it's too hot, so we're going to change the rules. And we're going to fast it in a cold month. We're going to change the date of Ramadan. That doesn't happen in Islam. Because Islam gives you that rule, is that if you disagree over anything, you return it to the Quran and the Prophet. But you're just recycling someone else's arguments. But I'm going to let you finish anyways. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure, of course. I'm not inventing anything. And just
I know.
Yeah, my issues was more like language is that no matter what language come from, I think it's still pretty obvious that it's ambiguous sometimes. You have like
have we just answered this part about someone showing you how to understand them by actual implementation of the teachings?
I guess
not just telling you, but actual implementation and showing you where the implementation is accurate and not accurate. That's the whole point.
Of course, exactly. So there are definitely things that are very clear. Like for instance, you said Ramadan, for instance. I think it's very clear, like how you should implement it. I think is very clear. But that's not really about morality. I think because there are some things that you don't that are not covered as well, and that you still need to interpret it.
Give me an example. Go ahead.
Okay, so for instance, I guess about I remember another conversation you had. So
can we stay in our conversation? You give
me
give me an example
it's kind of hard to
that thing that you say.
Yes. Right? Yeah, of course. Well, for instance, okay, let's say that. Okay, if I remember correctly, you are supposed to help people if it does not cause harm for yourself, right? That
is a very vague thing. You have to be more.
Okay, specific. Yeah, it is very vague. For instance, let's say that you see someone, your friend maybe, lives in another country. It's a really poor country, okay? And you can pay, I don't know, a very small price, and he will eat for a week, okay, with that money, okay?
Okay.
You essentially have no, and he's very poor, okay? You essentially have no con by doing that action, okay? And he gets a huge gain from it, right?
Okay.
I don't know if it's okay. So is that something that's moral? If you do that, that's something that's moral.
That there are. I think you already know the answer to that question. That's a very basic question. Okay, yeah. In Islam, anyways, just to make things easier. This is like, okay. To make things easier for you, in Islam, there's 5 types of commands. 5 types of commands in Islam. And I hope you come up with a better example next time, right? But there are 5 types of commands in Islam. First one is complete prohibition, which is what a lot of people call, we call haram, and a lot of people be saying haram, 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 and memeing that word. But this is the absolute prohibition, means you cannot do this, you shouldn't do this. Except under, for example, duress or under absolute necessity where you have no other option. Like, for example, you're going to die out of hunger, so you would have to eat like pig. This is the only thing available, and you'd eat as much to survive, and you're not happily eating it to enjoy it, but you just want to survive. That's an example. But in all other situations, that is absolutely prohibited, so that is haram. Then we have something else is called makruh. Makruh is something that is the opposite of recommended, which means that if you leave it, God will reward you. But if you do it, He does not consider it a sin. He doesn't punish you for it. Leaving it is good, but doing it is not necessarily a problem. Okay? So, and then we have something in between, which is called mubah, which is something that is allowed. Islam doesn't say do or do not do. For example, like scratching your head. You want to scratch your head today. You want to like move your glasses. These type of basic things. That's the gray area in between, if you want to call it. And then we have mustahab, which is the opposite of makruh, which is something that is recommended. Something that is recommended. If you do, you get rewarded, as the example that you gave. That is something recommended. That if I help that individual, There is a recommended act that I will get rewarded for. But in the same time, if I don't do it, I'm not going to get a sin. Unless that person is going to die or something, and you can save his life. That's a different situation, right? So there is a recommended act to do. And then the last thing is the things that you have to do. Fard, that you must do, like praying 5 times a day, etc. And paying your zakah, which is the obligatory wealth that you have, charity that you have to give yearly on the amount of savings that you have if you're a rich person, which eradicates this whole idea and scenario if people follow it anyways, eradicates the existence of those people who are poor, who don't have anything. Because either way, whether you give it recommendedly or not, meaning if you help that person by a recommended act or not, you would have to give charity either way. If you have money, if you have savings, you have to, by obligation, give 2.5% of your wealth yearly, the savings that you have, if they surpass a certain amount. So you would have to give charity either way. And generally, giving charity is something that is recommended in Islam and commanded in the Quran and the Sunnah. And helping people, the more the person in need, the more reward you would get from an Islamic perspective. So that's the answer to that very basic question.
Okay, I didn't know about the gray areas. So this was a really good question, a really good answer. Sorry.
Okay.
I have one last thing, which is about. I know you really like this is more of a personal maybe question. You really like the I don't know what's it called, but like you say that there's the God is necessary because of course everything has a cause, and if you go back far enough, you need an uncaused causer. Right?
Have you seen me say that, or are you saying people?
Yeah,
I've
seen you say that a lot of times.
When did I say that?
Many videos of you.
Yeah, I don't think I use that wording, but go ahead.
Okay, maybe not this word, but like this argument in general. I don't know what's it called, but like you said, I think you talked about.
There's a difference. I don't want to get into philosophy. There's a big difference between the arguments of dependency versus arguments of causation, which is what you're trying to refer to. There are different types of kalam, cosmological arguments anyways. It's not just one type. But I don't get into that gray area when I speak to people usually. I don't get into that. If you watch my videos, you would know that. But that's not what I get into. But what is the point that you're trying to make still?
Yeah, my point is, I think that's the main thing that I've seen you say about why God is a necessary being. And I don't think it's true.
Which videos are you watching? I don't remember making arguments God is a necessary being. I think you're taking other people's videos and then I know other people. I know other people who use these arguments, but I don't remember even one single time that I said making the argument of a necessary existence versus a contingent existence.
In the streets, for instance, I remember you talking about a table. Yeah, this table was made by someone.
But I don't use these terminologies of necessary existence. It's a much more basic thing that I'm saying. I'm saying that if you have something that is designed or made, right? And that requires a designer. If you look at it, it displays the attributes of its designer's maker. That's the argument that I say. Nothing there about necessary, possible, and all of these. I'm not using these arguments.
Okay, I really misunderstood maybe your argument. Then would you say that God is necessary in any way?
I don't like to use philosophical language because even in philosophy, necessary has different definitions based on who you're talking.
Would you say that you need God for that universe?
Okay, let me help you. Do you even understand what a necessary being is?
A necessary being, at least from my perception, is something that has to exist, and without it, whatever is attached to it wouldn't exist.
That's it?
Yes, in my opinion.
No, there is more to
from my perspective. Okay.
Yeah, there is more to the philosophical definition, but as I said, I'm not trying to get into that. It's something that cannot be in other ways, something that has to be eternal as well. There's many other things that you can give into the definition of a necessary existence. I think the existence of God is a much simpler issue. And that's why most of the time you'd see me talking about the existence of God is a reality that human beings are born with. I do not need to prove anything to anyone.
Okay.
The studies show, and I mentioned that multiple times. Studies show, and I mentioned that multiple times in my videos, that human beings are born innately with the idea or the belief that there is a creator.
Yeah, I guess.
Not that you guess; it's a fact that there are studies showing this.
I don't think. Okay.
Where do you guess there? It's a fact,
Well, I don't see this as a like from my own experience. I've never had that feeling. They had to explain to me what God was.
Because you've been socialized otherwise. That's the whole point of the study being on children. Because the study being in children is against the idea of socialization. Now you've been socialized otherwise. You've lived in a Western society. No one has been teaching you about God. They're teaching you about the opposite, about atheism.
No, they never really taught about me anything. Like I never. Really
but that's the whole point.
Yeah,
not teaching you anything is teaching you atheism, right? It's the whole thing, right? So they teach you about science and how like you have to be like, as science is the God, everything is discovered through science and this and that. They wouldn't say these things directly, but this is the end all be all in what they will be teaching. There's a lot of professors and teachers, etc., that in schools would be explicitly mocking people who believe in God, mocking children from a young age to socialize them against the belief of a creator. That's a very common thing, and especially when you get into like university level and you have professors, if you have these classes to do with religion or philosophy, you'll always be mocking ideas of God, and they will not do it directly, they will do it indirectly, but trying to socialize those kids into being pushed away from the idea of religion, etc. So you saying you don't feel it right now is irrelevant, right? That's why these studies are on children, people who've not yet been socialized into a specific belief. So if we are born already with that belief, I do not need to kind of give reasons for anything. I would say that there is an innate thing that is intuitively we're born with as human beings. If someone does not believe it, then he has been socialized otherwise. He has been taken away from the innate state that human beings are born with. He's not purely natural. So we would like to welcome you into the natural state. We say come back into being fully human. Don't change it to other things. Come back into humanity again.
If I don't know if I still have time, but this is a little limited at the moment, because like everything that we do, and even God, in my opinion, even if we did have an innate concept of God, which I don't know if I agree with it, but okay, never mind. Let's say that we do.
It's not about agreeing or disagreeing.
Sure. Let's say we do.
Okay. It's like you're not doing it for my sake. There are these studies that I've mentioned them multiple times. You give the sources. It's not, and they're done by atheists. So okay, but go ahead. Yes.
Let's say we do. Cannot this be explained by evolution? Just like I don't think, even if we do have a feature, okay, let's say we do have, I don't know, we see colors, right? Do colors exist? I don't know, probably not.
Okay. You go ahead now, and tell me about evolution. What are the 4 assumptions of evolution?
Well, the assumption of evolution is essentially one main pillar of evolution.
The 4 main assumptions that evolutions are based upon.
Okay, I don't know if there are 4. I know that evolution can work with essentially the more fit individual to the environment will survive, and thus will have a higher chance of
natural selection is called natural selection, and that's one of them. So what are the other ones?
I don't know what the other ones are.
Have you read a book? Have you read Darwin's book?
No.
Do you know the name of the book?
The
basic.
The Origin of Species?
Yes. Have you read The Origin of Species?
No, I've never read it.
Okay. Can you tell me about genetic drift? Genetic drift.
Not really. I've heard.
Do you know what punctuated equilibrium means?
Nope. So I'm not claiming to be a.
No. I'm just showing you. Most of the people in the West are a mirror image of yourself. They believe in something have no clue about. They've not researched. They do not know the basics of. They've not read the basic book about its existence or knowledge, and then they believe it and they accept it to be a fact. And then you would like us to have a discussion on evolution being the reason why we believe in God, when we still have not discussed whether evolution is real or not. What evidence? Sorry.
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, 2 things. One, I never really claimed that God. I have no idea where the concept of God comes from. Okay, I'm not claiming.
No, we're talking about evolution.
Okay, yeah. So when I say that maybe the concept of God comes from evolution, I'm saying that it could be a possibility. I'm not saying that it is.
We don't look at possibilities unless there is evidence to look at them. Unless evolution is true, we do not then see whether the idea of the existence of God could be influenced by that thing which is already true or not. If there is no evidence it's true to begin with, then we do not include it as a possibility to begin with.
Okay.
Before we move into a completely different subject. So, But what atheists do, honestly, they do, and you can try this, you can try this socialization and brainwashing. Go to your university. If you go to university, I don't know what you do, but go to university or your basic friends, the people around you that are in their 20s, and just ask them, is evolution a fact? And all of them will say yes. And ask them the basic questions that I was asking you about evolution. And they will all probably give the same answers that you were given. They've been socialized into believing in something that they do not understand.
So do you say that to believe in something, you need to understand it fully?
I think to believe in something and to be convicted with it, you need to understand at least its basics and the reasoning why you believe. If you believe in something, if you're convicted with something, as people are in the West, convicted with evolution, and they don't know why they are, this is what brainwashing is. Because if I start asking someone for like the basics of that thing that they're convicted, so believing in so much, they don't know it. Like if you go to a Muslim who is like so convicted in Islam and says that it's the absolute truth, and then you ask him what are the 5 pillars of Islam, and he doesn't know, or these basic knowledge things I was asking you. What books do you guys read? And he doesn't know the Quran. Then that becomes ridiculous, because how are you convicted in that thing unless you're being brainwashed to believe in that thing? You literally do not know the basics, yeah? But anyways, look, we'll leave it here. I would like just to think about these things. And as I gave you as a recommendation in the beginning of the discussion, read the Quran and the biography of the Prophet ﷺ. And you're welcome to come back, with other questions maybe in another time. Absolutely. If you like, Anyways, nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.